Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. In 2010-11, Barcelona and Real Madrid faced off in a Clásico that would go down in the history books. It was Mourinho's first season at the Bernabeu, and they topped La Liga coming into the match, but this Barcelona side was at its peak and would go on to be considered as one of the greatest of all time. Barcelona came away with a 5-0 win, thanks to Xavi, Pedro, a Villa double, and Jeffren. But what tactics were used by both managers in this match? Well, in this video, we take a look. A quick reminder of both teams' formations. Barcelona stuck to their preferred 4-3-3 and their personnel looked like this. Mourinho, on the other hand, stuck with his now preferred 4-2-3-1 and his personnel looked like this. Now, let's get into the tactics. Barcelona, of course, looked to play out from the back through Valdés. Early on in the match, Ronaldo pushed up alongside Benzema in a 2 to face Piqué and Puyol. So, Barcelona's centre-backs would split to the width of the 18-yard area in order to split the two forwards, whilst Valdés would accentuate the 3 versus 2 in this region, while at the same time, Busquets provided an option in the pivot role, with Ozil trying to drop deep to track him. The fullbacks were pushing higher during this phase, and whilst Di Maria could pick up Eric Abidal, Ronaldo tucking in meant that Alves was often an outlet option as Real were hesitant to push a midfielder wide and leave themselves short in midfield. As the match progressed, Mourinho was unwilling to keep pressing high unsuccessfully, whilst also sacrificing midfield solidity, and as a result, he pushed Ronaldo and Benzema deeper, to be sitting on Barca's midfielders rather than the centre-backs. So, Barcelona's defenders could come through the first phase relatively unchallenged. A key element of Barcelona's build-up play was the ability to make the pitch big by utilising the full width of the pitch. They facilitated this by building in an extremely wide back three, with Abidal being the wide left centre-back and Piqué the wide right centre-back, which would then allow Alves to push higher up, and Barcelona preferred building up through the right-hand side. With Ronaldo pressing central, he didn't have to worry as much about being caught out of position. Pedro then shifted to the centre-forward role, allowing Messi to drop into the midfield region. So where there had just been a 3 versus 3 in midfield, it now became a 4 versus 3 due to Messi. So one of Khedira and Alonso would often drop to Messi, which would leave Xavi unmarked oftentimes. With Ronaldo and Benzema high and split wide by the back three, Xavi would drop alongside Busquets, providing an extra option, meaning that Madrid's marker, usually Ozil in this situation, could not cover 2 men. Real Madrid often defended narrowly due to Barcelona's strength in this region. So, the wide region was an option to build up. When Alves got the ball here, Messi would move into the wide half space on the right to support him, but at the same time, Alves was confident enough to take on Marcelo 1 versus 1, or at times Pedro instead found himself in this same situation on the right. Both Busquets and Iniesta had the freedom throughout the match to make runs into the box from high up. This was especially encouraged when Messi was deep in midfield to provide them with cover. But crucially, as Madrid kept 2 men high, the remaining midfield had to be compact and shift towards the ball wide, and they were susceptible to a quick switch. We see this in the second Barcelona goal. Pedro is found 1 versus 1 against Marcelo, and Messi's run into the right half space takes away Xabi Alonso, which leaves Xavi to receive the ball here, and we can see Madrid's 4 midfielders are grouped around the ball. This means that Ramos has to keep an eye open on 2 men, Iniesta and David Villa. And when he follows the immediate danger, which is Iniesta, Villa freely receives the ball on the left wing. He's then 1 versus 1 against Ramos and beats him, getting the cross in, and Pedro attacking the box gets the tap in. Now, although Barcelona built up primarily through the right, the left is where the majority of their penetration came. Iniesta was key to this. With Real's midfield congregated on the right, Villa and Iniesta were often easy outlets on the left. Iniesta was usually in the left half space, whilst Villa provided width on the touchline, although these two's roles could be interchanged. This meant that Ramos was constantly in 2 minds, as tucking to Iniesta would lead to a goal, like just discussed, but if he stayed wide, Iniesta could be lethal from these positions. Getting Iniesta free here was easier when Messi dropped into the midfield, as one of Real's midfield men went to him, and Real tended to mark man versus man in the midfield. And now, with Iniesta free in this region, his vision meant that there was always danger for Real Madrid. We see this in Barcelona's first goal. Messi in midfield creates an overlap to draw Madrid's midfield higher, freeing Iniesta to receive the ball in this region, assisted by Pedro drawing the attention of Pepe. And as a result, Iniesta has time in the left half space, and as discussed, the midfielders had the freedom to run into the box, and Xavi does so and punishes them. But a lot of damage came from Messi in his false 9 position, drifting across the entire pitch as his touch map shows. A big problem for Madrid was that whilst Ozil was a midfielder, his defensive work rate wasn't the highest, so at times what seemed like a 3 versus 3 would be a 4 versus 2 with Messi joining the midfield and Ozil staying high. With Khedira and Alonso often concerned with what was in front of them, it meant that when Messi received the ball in this region, it was often one of Carvalho or Pepe who had to move up to mark him, so he didn't have the space to turn. However, when they moved out, this just opened a gap behind the centre-back, which had the potential to be taken advantage of. We see this in Barcelona's third goal, as Messi picks up the ball just outside the area. Both Alonso and Carvalho look to close him down, but this opens up the space for Messi to slip the ball into the box for David Villa to finish. To try and combat the midfield problem that developed for Madrid as the match went on, Mourinho introduced Lassana Diarra for Ozil to give them a more traditional 4-3-3 as opposed to the 4-2-3-1. What this also meant is that now the wingers in Di Maria and Ronaldo were now free of their defensive duties. When Ronaldo had previously been defending central, he now shifted to the flank. Interestingly, Mourinho didn't use his usual inverted wingers, and instead Di Maria was on the left and Ronaldo on the right. Madrid's limited possession might have meant that when they got into the wide areas, crosses were encouraged to try and rapidly create chances. But as the match went on and Real were chasing the match, they pushed their midfield and backline higher as they looked to pressure Barcelona higher up the pitch. But the space was exposed for the fourth goal by Messi in the false 9 position. Again, the Madrid midfield congregates in one area and Messi beats the defensive midfielder, and Carvalho once again comes out to close him down. But David Villa again makes the diagonal run whenever Messi was deep, and the through ball allows him to finish 1 versus 1 against Iker Casillas. A similar pattern occurs for the fifth goal. The Madrid line is pushed high and Carvalho breaks rank to close down Messi. However, the ball instead breaks out to Bojan, who has the pace to beat the centre-back's high line. Jeffron makes the arrowing run towards the box and is able to dispatch the cross for the fifth goal. But Barcelona didn't just excel in the offensive phase, their defense was excellent as well. They often pressed the shoulder of the man receiving the ball, meaning they didn't have time to take a touch and spread the ball to the other side of the pitch. As a result, they would be forced to one side of the pitch, and Real didn't risk playing into the midfield. Instead, Ronaldo would push alongside Benzema to try and take advantage of their aerial ability and hold up the play. However, even when they did win the header, they were isolated from their midfield, meaning that the second ball usually just ended up with Barcelona. Even on the rare occasions where Madrid moved controlled into Barcelona's final third, the lack of numbers and options meant that they were usually reduced to shots from range, as shown by the shot map. Overall, it was a match that was never really close, as Pep's side took control of the match and never let go. Barca would go on to win La Liga by just 4 points, and in many ways, this match swung the direction of the title race. But what did you make of Barcelona 2010-11? And if you enjoyed this look back at a classic match, check out the analysis of Istanbul 2005 and how Ferguson ended the Invincibles. Or you can get a closer look at the tactics of classic teams such as Barcelona 2010-11 or Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan, all linked at the end of the video. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.